Right, hello, I think we're live. Oh, cool. Right, hello, welcome back to another sort of production session thingy-majig. I know it's been a while, I've been quite busy with work and everything, but I've got a track here that I've been working on for a while. I say working on, I've just sort of done it, worked on it, and then left it for ages. But I thought it's quite a good track. I thought I do want to release this at some point, so I thought it might be good if I did this live on stream, maybe with you guys. So I've got let me just get this ready. I've got the usual sort of FL splice, as I mentioned last time, really handy, and I'll just play this track that I've got. It's a bit more of like a dance floor melodic drum and bass, but we'll just play it as it is for now. Yeah, pretty much it. As I said, more of like a dance floor-y track. I did play this on the last stream at the very end, but it still needs some work. I mean, the sort of core base of it is there. It's already at the level that I want it, so it just needs sort of some improvements, some mastering, and then it's pretty much ready. But I thought what I'd do to start is just break down what is already here, and then that way anyone that's watching can sort of learn what I've done to create this. I did notice sometimes there's some problems with opening files back up in this sort of thing. Sometimes happens where it loses the WAV file. And I know I'm not the only one who has this, because I've spoken to people about this. So let me just sort this out quickly. Fuck it if it'll let me drag it. I usually actually produce across 2 monitors, but because this is a stream and that would make it look pretty crap, I thought I'd just keep it to the one. So yeah, there's a couple of things that have sort of lost the file, and all you really have to do is just reset the preset, or reset whatever input you're using. So if I check this, yeah, so you can see that sounds a bit nicer now. So I thought I'd start with, the intro, as always. We've got probably the main part of this track is definitely this melody. So this is off Splice, of course. But I chose this because I thought this reminded me a lot of sort of, like a friction track, maybe a dimension track, that sort of thing. And I think it just sounds really good with some chords over it. So I've sort of used let me check what I've used to make these chords. So I've actually used, in this scenario, I've used one of the FL Studio plugins that come with the software. So I haven't paid for anything here. This is just a just a simple synth. And what I've done is I've used that to make some chords. Let me have a look. I did make this quite a while ago, so I'm sort of refreshing my memory on how I actually came about this. But yeah, really simple. Got some chords there. Nothing special, as you can see. It's just the 2 notes on top of each other. I personally believe that you don't really need to know an awful lot about chords when you're first starting production. I still don't really know that much about chords. It's something I intend on learning eventually, and I've started to learn. But there's so many sort of like useful guides and stuff, and there's even plugins you can get nowadays that do the chords for you. And I don't think there's any sort of, you know, any harm in that, because like not everyone knows how to put together like perfect sounding chords, and that's fine. So this here, I mean, I wouldn't even call these chords, like they're just the same note, just an octave higher, but that's just what makes it sound a bit more spaced out. But one thing I have been able to do, and one thing you will need to learn, is that I've been able to match this riff to the actual sample here, so it's in the same key, and as you can see, they actually work well together. It's not just like a completely different tone going with the sample, so they actually sound well together. And yeah, sounds pretty good. So then all I've done, that's obviously the intro, so all I've done is I've added this white noise sample. You probably saw this on the last project. I use it all the time. It's really good. It's good in multiple situations, on the sort of on the get-go as you're starting a song, on the drop as you can see here. Just adds an extra layer. So I've got that, and then that's just a volume automation, so we'll ignore that for now, and then it's just this here. So just a backfiller. This is literally just this just sits almost behind all the other parts of the track and just fills out the gaps. That's something I learned recently, that you can have sort of the best chords and everything, but if there's not enough going on in your track, it won't sound full, and it won't sound as sort of entertaining, because it's got sort of bits missing. So what I did for this, I looked at the key of this, F minor, went on Splice, as I showed you last time, and just searched for samples in the same key. And then I went through, had a little play around, and found this one here. And this, along with the chords, works incredibly well together. And yeah, that's the intro. It's just, I mean, at the minute, still need some work, and I've got some bits that I want to do with it, but as a sort of core intro, that's not bad at all. With the white noise, of course. And then yeah, I've progressed it. This probably won't take too long to go through, but I've progressed it just with a riser, and I've brought in some drums here. So this again, just a loop. I like using loops. The only time I really sort of make sort of drums and stuff from scratch is during the drop, but during the build up, I mean, I tend to use sort of loops and just single notes. So yeah, got the build up, got the this is just a what is it, hi-hats. Fairly straightforward. But I mean, it creates for a nice build up. It's got a good rhythm to it. It's quite fast. So when you pair that with everything, again, like I said last time I did this, the best thing I know about build ups is that you just progress. You just build on top of what you've already got. Like just by adding those hi-hats, that's adding an extra layer to the song, and it, as simple as it sounds, it's making it progress. So yeah, that's just the sort of start, and then here we get into the vocals. Vocals were, if I remember correctly, a sample that I actually cut up a bit and edited. So that's just the hook on its own. I think it actually didn't fit. If I remember correctly, it didn't fit the tempo of the song, so I had to cut it up to match the tempo. And this is something you can do. You can always sort of stretch and modify the wavelengths to fit the tempo. But if the sample itself doesn't fit the rhythm initially, it's not really going to work. So you have to kind of cut out the gaps and put the rhythm in place. So here, for example, actually what I'll do, I'll get rid of the vocals for now, and then we'll put in, where's it gone? We'll put in just the original sample, and you'll see how terrible. It just doesn't quite fit the beat. It's not massively off, but this version here, basically I've just made it so that the start of every word actually hits the beat and it's not slightly off. And that's been really simple to do. You just, like here for example, I've cut out a little space here and dragged this across to ensure that this word hits the beat. And I've done that throughout the sample. And then obviously we got some kick drums coming in here. Yeah, that's all I've done, and that's the build up, starting to introduce the vocals. The vocals I chose again because they were the same key, and the fact that they're sort of formant, I think fits the genre I'm going for really well. It's definitely more of like a dance floory, melodic drum and bass vibe that I've gone for, and I thought these vocals fit really well. I can sit there for hours going through vocals sometimes, just trying to find one that I like. It's not easy when you're first starting, and when you don't have sort of connections for vocals, because you're forced to go through all these samples that aren't necessarily tailored for your track, so you've got to kind of work with them. I mean, I've been looking to sort of work with vocal artists and stuff, but it's not, especially right now, it's not easy. But in general, when you're first starting, you've just got sort of splice samples, or you could take samples from old music, but then you run the risk of copyright. It's a whole big deal with vocals. It's quite difficult, I find. But if you can find on Splice, for example, something like this, a good loop that matches your track, then you're fine. And that's what I've always used, and I've actually found some decent, my songs that were on Spotify, I actually really like the vocals on there, and they're just straight from Splice. They fit the track really well. My best tip, if you are using sort of Splice vocals, is to build the track around the vocals. So this, for example, I can't remember, I made it a while ago. It's possible I found the vocals and then built the track around it. So I've made sure to use everything else in key, and I imagine I probably did that. So that's another thing you can try. If you're finding that every time you use vocals it doesn't fit the track, or it doesn't match the key, then start with the vocals and build around it, and you'll find that everything will be matching, because you've worked around those specific vocals. So like this, for example, you can tell it all works together. And then yeah, we'll get into the build up. Really simple. This sort of genre it's not about creating a massive riser. It's more just building up slightly and then just releasing the tension along with bringing the drums in. So if I play this, you'll sort of understand what I mean. So yeah, Like I said, just got with one simple riser. In some of my other tracks you'll see I use a big saw riser or something in the heavier ones, and it just wouldn't fit in this situation. It's more of a track where you want this sort of riser, so a sort of swooshy background riser, along with maybe some snares, some kicks. Nothing too special, it's just these three that are doing the work. This is actually a sample that I use in a lot of my tracks. It just works. It's just a snare with some rises in the background. So I use that a lot, and then yeah, that's pretty much the build up, and everything else is still the same. So if I go back to the original. As you can see, I've used this white noise again, as always. It's just really good for sort of using it as a downlifter. Other things you can do, you can also get a crash sample and reverse that. Let me see if I can do that now. Actually, I might not be able to find crashes. No, I can't find a proper crash right now, but if you've got sort of a long crash, you can then reverse that and use that as almost an impact downlifter. And that's really useful for just releasing tension. It makes the drop hit a lot harder. In terms of the drop, we'll move on. The drums in this are actually some of the best drums that I've done so far. So if I hold on, we'll start with this. So as you can see, layered drums. Always do layered drums if I can, if it doesn't sound too over the top, but layered drums tends to help just make them sound so much more full. So here we got 2 kick drums, layered, both a bit sort of, but they both hit quite hard. I'd say this one's a bit more spaced out, yeah, whereas this one's a bit more solid, if you know what I mean. So together they work quite well. And then we've just got, that's quite a heavy snare, and that's a higher pitch one. There I've matched the two, and these could use some sort of EQ work, and I'll probably go through that later on. But when you get when you layer your drums, if you get sort of a lower pitch one and a higher pitch snare, for example, they'll work well together to sort of fill out the whole EQ, and that's what makes a song sound more full, when you haven't just got certain parts of the EQ being filled. So those two together, really simple. Again, needs some EQ, but the general premise of it sounds good. And then I've probably just used, yeah, to a break. I tend to get a break, and I tend to build on a break, because trying to create something like this from scratch, these are all recorded, so it'd be quite difficult. You can do it in yourself using samples, but it'd be quite difficult to get it to sound that good. So what I tend to do is get a break like this, and I think I chose this one just because I love that sort of bit in between the kicks. It just sounds in between the snares, sorry, sounds awesome, and fills out any gaps between the snares. So I've gone for this one, and I've just built along with it. Just layered it, and then I've got some hi-hats as well. So don't be afraid to use like samples along with your drums. I'd recommend creating your own sort of kicks and snares, but then layering them with breaks, with hi-hat loops. And you can see I've kind of got, it's kind of like a jungle sort of beat. So that works pretty well. And then here, yeah, more loops. Again, there's some sort of extra little taps in there that just help fill out the song, make the whole drum pattern way more interesting. So if I play this, oh, this should be the whole. Pretty cool, works really well. And like I can save this I could actually export this as a WAV file and use this in a future track if I wanted. If I was making a similar style of track, I might even do this, or I might come back to this file, edit it slightly, export it as a WAV file and put it into the new one. Just saves time, and if I know that this sort of drum beat sounds good with that style of track, then there's no harm in using it. I've still created it. So yeah, that's one of my better drum beats. I do have another one that I will probably show later on in the stream, but yeah, that is just layered with the original sample, and then I've just got a bass. Now this bass, I've had some trouble with this, trying to get this back to how it was, because as you saw at the start, it sort of lost its, it sounds alright now, it sort of lost its WAV file and got a bit confused, but yeah, it's really simple. I'll see if I can find the serum. Yeah, so here it is. I think it's just a preset, really. Yeah, all it is, preset. I may have modified it slightly, but I doubt I've done that much to it. And all I've done is I've just made a pattern. I imagine I've grabbed these chords here. Yeah, it's the same pattern, and then I've just modified it slightly to add some more rhythm to it. So here, as you can see, which pattern are we on? Yeah, there's some gaps to create some rhythm, and then yeah, that all together along with the impact. This down here, sorry, just straight white noise. I sometimes tend to use that to just fill out any gaps. It makes sure there's not a single point in the drop where there's nothing going on, so it just fills everything out and makes everything sound more full. So yeah, that's the drop. Second one's exactly the same. I sort of kept the second one the same in this one just because I feel it suits the song. I might modify it slightly, but I think it's fine. I might maybe introduce the vocals earlier or something. But what I'm going to do now, I want to, because I noticed these drums, they are a bit, like the kick drums for example, are a bit off. So I thought I'd go through how I sort of EQ these. So if I create a loop here, and then I've got to work out which ones are being used. Yeah, so these two. So I've got a side chain going on here. I'm not going to go into detail about side chaining because that's a whole big thing, but you can look it up online. It's fairly simple, and basically what it is it's an automation that lowers the kicks to allow for the bass to sort of blend in. It's quite hard to explain, but it basically just makes the drums fit with the bass a lot better. So if you can't really hear on that, but it just means that the drums aren't drowning out the bass, which is a really useful tip, and that's something I only learned recently. So what I'll do, I want to EQ these a bit, so you can see like one of these sounds a bit, that one sounds good, this one sounds a bit, I don't know how to describe it, but a bit weak. So it's this one here, yeah. So if I up the low end, that already sounds a bit richer. Mix them two together. We'll play around with that. Oh god, clicking all the wrong things. You don't want the low ends too high, because as I said, it can drown out the bass a bit. We'll just do a bit on the snares. with the snares, it's best to have the mids quite high, because that's where the impact is. I'm not really liking this snare, this kick. If I play around with this a bit more, I find it sounds a bit too spaced out. What you can do as well is you can obviously lower the volume of certain drums. So you might have 2-layered drums and you'll have one that's a lot lower than the other. The snares sound good. Do you hear like that high end? There's a bit on this one as well, that's the problem. To be fair, with everything going on, it's not as noticeable, but I'll be able to hear it better on proper. I've got monitor speakers, so I'll be able to hear whether that kick is properly hitting. And I tend not to master too much on my headphones, especially these are just normal sort of gaming headphones, so I don't tend to master too much. I tend to just create on these, and then I'll move over to maybe my DJ headphones or the monitor speakers to get the proper mastering done, because those will allow me to hear any sort of imperfections, anything like that needs changing. But these are good enough to the point where I can sort of hear if there's anything wrong. But I'll move on eventually once I feel like I've completed the track to actually, you know, mastering, mixing, getting all of these EQs right, because I want to make sure that everything's the right level. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot more that I would add to this track. The problem I've had with this track is it's sort of been in this state for a very long time, and I don't know if there's much else I really want to add to it. I may end up working on it sort of in the future or more recently, because I do want to get it released. I might actually sort of mix and master it after this, but I don't want to do it on stream because it's probably not very entertaining. There's a lot of sort of doing that and then tweaking and then playing it again. You'll find sort of mastering, mixing stuff is sort of the most repetitive part of the song, and by the end of it, I promise you will hate your song. No matter how good it is, every time I master a track, I hate it by the end of it, because you've just listened to it like 200 times, and then you go to show your mates and you just like, oh, I've listened to this song so many times. But you've got to keep in mind that, you know, it's completely different to a pair of fresh ears. But yeah, I mean, that's it for this track. I mean, I was going to work on it a bit more, but there's nothing that springs to mind that I really want to change. I mean, the build-up's fine. The drops, I might maybe modify the second drop, but I'm not sure. I've got these vocals here, but I'm not sure there's much else I really want to do. So what I'll do, let me see if I've got another track. I think this one. I wanted to show you my liquid track. I wanted to go over how I sort of put that together. Although I don't. Is this it? Yeah, this might be it. Why keep hiding where the sun is dark? Yeah. So this is my liquid track, so simple. I literally put this together in very little time, and yeah, it sounds good. I'm quite proud of this one. So if we...
Why keep you hiding where the sun is dark? It's undefined, want to know where you are. Why keep you hiding where the sun is dark? The sun is dark. Why keep you hiding where the sun is dark?
So this one, I mean, as you can see, there's not really much to it. The main focus on this for me was just getting the right effects, the right chords. As you can see, I spent a bit of time on the chords here. Where are we? Let's see if I can find these. Yeah. So these chords, and I imagine I probably got these chords. I made the chords myself, but I probably got some help from just looking online at sort of good chord patterns to use. But this is just again another default plugin from FL Studio. Really simple. Like, these are great because a lot of people brush over these and just go, oh, I need serum, I need massive. But if you actually give these a chance, I find them really useful, and especially for sort of more synthy stuff. They're not great for basses, to be honest, but for more sort of synthy melodic stuff like this, they're perfect. You don't need to go out spending £100 on a synthesizer. So really simple chord pattern. And yeah, I've just layered that with a sample from Splice. This is quite a popular sample. It's been used in other tracks. But it's definitely been used in other tracks, but I've just sort of put my own spin on it. I thought, you know, it's quite a melodic vocal, so I've just turned it into a liquid track. The drums on this are so simple. It's just a beat. I mean, as you saw, normally I'd layer sort of some drums over the break, but it works so well that I didn't feel like I needed to, and I made this track extremely quickly, so I've just gone with this along with another loop. Really simple, didn't need to make any drums. It's as simple as that. And like, it's not like, even if I wanted to, it's not like it really would have added, because these drums hit hard enough, and with a liquid track you don't want too much going on in the drums, because it will just drown everything out and it won't sound as chill as it should. So I've literally just got these two loops, and it works amazing. And then I think all I've done is just got a bass, little bass pattern. So you can see in this track I was definitely focusing on making my own sort of patterns and synths as opposed to sort of the drums and everything else. So this I would have just played around with my keyboard, just worked out what sounds good. Simple sub bass. If you look online on how to make a sub bass, you'll find something very similar to this. You can do it in this, you can do it in Serum, and a sub bass is one of the most useful things to know, because most tracks need a sub bass just to fill out the low end, and in this situation the sub bass is the whole bass. This is what sort of creates the drop, so it's just this pretty chill but pretty effective bass going on. So that matches well with that matches really well with these chords. So yeah, so let me close Steam. I'm getting all sorts of notifications. And that's pretty much the track. The only other thing I've added is these effects, and I remember I spent a bit of time trying to find effects that actually match the track, effects that would spice it up a bit. It's not just the same thing for the whole drop. So the effects in this are quite good. I've got really simple build up. There's no, you know, in this track there's no sort of snare build up, there's no riser as such, there's just this really simple little swoop. You don't need, I don't think in a liquid track you need a big build up. It doesn't work. So I've just got this, and then I've just got another one to sort of release the tension. Really chill, kind of trippy, works really well. And then I've also got, you know, some sort of spacey comet sounds, because I thought it just sounds sick with the vibe that's going on. And I think it worked well with the track. The track name was Dark Sun. You know, it all sort of ties in, and this is where you're just sort of being creative with different sounds, different effects, trying to create. You know, when you're making a track, you're trying to create a vibe. I know it sounds cringy, but that's what you're doing, especially with something more chill like this. So I've just got these going on, and then the main one that sort of progresses the second part of the drop is this sound here. I remember I heard this on Splice, and I just thought, yeah, that would be sick. So as you can hear, the drop progresses into that after the vocals.
Why keep you hiding where the sun is dark? It's undefined, want to know where you are. Why keep you hiding where the sun is dark? The sun is dark.
So it just like, it works so well with like the effects and stuff. Creates like just a spaced out sort of atmosphere. I think it's sick. And then I've just cut the drums at that point, you know, to progress it into the second build up. I've still got the hi-hats going. Same again. I mean, really simple. I honestly think anyone could do something like this and be proud of it. I'm proud of this track. I made it really quickly, but whenever I listen to this track, it chills me out. It does what it's meant to do, so I'm really happy with this. And yeah, I mean, there's probably, I'll see if there's anything else I can show you today. I don't want to stream for too long today, just because we've sort of been over a couple tracks. I was thinking I will eventually start working on some music on stream, but I think that's maybe something to do in the future when I'm a bit more comfortable with just how I produce, because a lot of the time I sit there, I just like play around with stuff. I might sit there for a couple hours and not get anywhere, and that's sort of the harsh bit of producing, is people think you just sit there and you create like a hit track just straight away and you get really happy, but there's so many times when you're just not really achieving anything, you're just playing around, but that's not to say that it's a bad thing, because you're learning how to navigate the software, you're learning how to create with new samples, use new plugins, all of that stuff, and that's why I want to be careful when I'm streaming, just me producing, because a lot of the time it's just playing around, it's not necessarily getting anywhere. But I do have a couple sort of projects that I want to work on. I've been doing more sort of house stuff recently. As a lot of you know, I'm really into my house, and more recently I've wanted to create more house. So completely different, completely different to the last track. But like this, for example, was a bit of sort of a housey bass house track.
Let's get money, motherfucker, get money. Get money, motherfucker, get money. Let's get money, motherfucker, get money. Get money, motherfucker, get money. Let's get money, motherfucker, get money. Get money, motherfucker, get money. Let's get money, motherfucker, get money. Get money, motherfucker, get money. Let's get money.
way more intense than the last track. But this is one I've been working on. I would like to maybe progress on this a bit. So if that's something anyone wants to see, I mean, just let me know. It would be if I did do a stream working on music as opposed to sort of going through my already made tracks. It'd be a bit of a longer one, and I'd need to, you know, create some time for it. But I'd be happy to do that, and it might actually mean I actually get a track finished, because I've been struggling recently to sort of get any sorted. I had a whole problem where I didn't have my monitor speakers for a good few months, but I've got them back now, so I can actually master tracks. I've got a couple. This one I want to finish off. The first one I showed you, the drum and bass one, I want to get that mastered, get that released, because I really like that one. And then I think after that I'm going to focus on this sort of house, bass house. I'll go through this one quickly. I mean, house is very different to drum and bass in sort of how you produce it. I believe it's in fact quite easy. Not to shit on house producers, but it's just a lot easier to do the drums, for example. So here we've just got all you need, just a kick, an open hi-hat, and a snare, and that sort of rhythm, along with maybe a bit of percussion in the background, and then yeah, I've just matched that with just a rocker bass. So simple. It's crazy how simple it is to put this sort of thing together, and you know, you really don't need a lot. You just need maybe one good bass loop, and you just get the right drums. It's about getting the right samples, putting them together. It's not necessarily about spending ages creating one bass and then, you know, spending ages creating a kick and whatever. You can just use samples, get the right ones, put them together, and that's just how you form, you know, just form a drop. The vocal on this, I'm debating whether I like it or not, but it works for now. Sometimes I'll use a vocal in the track to work around, and then I'll when I get to sort of mastering and releasing the track, I'll then maybe change the vocal to a similar one, or maybe even take the vocal out. You know, you don't have to keep your track to its original plan. A lot of the time I'll have a plan for a track, and then I'll just completely change it, and that's when I come up with some of my best tracks. Is when you start with something and it just sort of evolves into something completely different that you never planned on making, but it sounds good and you're proud of it. In this one, for example, I've created this little bass. Sounds pretty cool at the start of the drop. Just a serum. See, look, it's lost the thing again. So I probably would have just, I've got my keyboard here, I would have just been there like this for ages, just, you know, playing around until I probably accidentally made something like this, and then thought, yeah, that will sound good. I'll spend some time actually putting that into the piano roll, and that's exactly what I've done. And I've matched that with a bit of a lower end. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but they work well together.
Let's get money, motherfucker, get money.
Same premise as the drum and bass one, really. You've got the sort of build up with the rises and then the release. The rises in this are a bit different. You know, sort of big room rises. You'll find if you're producing a certain genre and you're searching on Splice for that genre, you'll get different styles of rises, different styles of bass. Obviously the BPM is completely different in this. This is 128, so I'll get a whole different section of samples on Splice, and you'll automatically get stuff that matches the genre. So if I search, like, you know, bass house, I'll find a bass house pack. Maybe what I'll do, actually, I'll show you packs. Yeah, so you'll maybe find a bass house pack or drum and bass pack, and these are literally designed to have all the samples you need. You could just use this pack, for example, and you can make a track out of this, because all of the samples are designed to work together. They're designed to work with that genre, and that's why I honestly, Splice is incredible, and I recommend it to everyone. It's worth the money. Yeah, like all of these sort of stabs. If I go to bass here, let's have a look. Like some of them, you know, you won't ever use, and that's why you can just buy only the ones you want. But like that's, you know, that's a bass house bass, and I could easily, like, I could take that and I could put it over some drums. I'll just make an example. I could take that. That's all you need. Grab some drums. Hang on, let me get this. What I'll do, I'll use this track actually. Let's get, and we'll just get the drums. So and then we'll find the one I've just bought, which is, where is it? Yeah. And like, it might not work perfect, but like, it's so incredibly simple. It's kind of fascinating that you can just, you know, just get a bass, add some drums, and it sounds like a million times better. And like, I could use that instead of, so I've got this one at the minute. I could use this one instead and just, you know, get rid of that. So, you know, it's just about playing around, seeing what samples match your track, just doing that along with making your own sort of drums and stuff. That's all you need to do, and you'll start producing, you know, decent quality tracks. The best part about samples is they're already mastered to sound good. They're not gonna drown out anything, because there's not going to be anything wrong with them. So if you've used sort of samples and stuff, it will make your job way easier in terms of mastering, mixing, finishing the track off, and it will just sound good in all round general, like all speakers. That's the problem I used to have when I first started producing. I didn't really know a lot about mastering. I wasn't using a lot of samples. I was just trying to make everything from scratch, and you know, it might sound good on your headphones, but then you play it in your car or you play it on some proper speakers and it just sounds like shite. It just sounds like the bass is too loud, or you know, you can't hear a certain sample because it's clipping and stuff like that. Whereas samples are good because you know they're not going to be clipping. You know, you can just easily modify, you know, the volume in this, or you can change the EQ. It just makes your life a lot easier. So I'd recommend that if you're just starting out. Obviously once you progress, you can start working on your own stuff. Like if I wanted to, you know, make, where is it, if I wanted to make this, I could probably make something similar in Serum, just make a similar bass and then create the pattern, but it, you know, it's not necessary. And this sounds good as it is. So yeah, I think we've been going for like an hour. I'm going to leave it there. We've been through a few tracks. I'm going to keep it sort of, for the minute, I'm going to keep it sort of as these educational ones, because I think people benefit of these. I had a couple messages actually on my Instagram, people saying thanks for the advice, so I'm glad to help. It's really cool that people actually, you know, watch and learn stuff. As I said in the beginning, I'm not a master or anything at this. In fact, I'm you know, I'm still just a sort of amateur producer, but I'm just sharing on any advice that I've learned along the way and any tips I have, because I honestly think anyone can, you know, get this software. Anyone can make some decent tracks using samples and stuff, and yeah, I don't see why anyone feels like it should be intimidating, because it's not. It can be intimidating at first, but you know, if you know sort of the right things to do and the right way to go about it, you know, you'll be making proper full tracks in no time. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. As always, it was nice. I'll probably look into producing some stuff on live. But I'll go over that with Will and see, because that might be a slightly longer stream, but we'll see. And I'll in the future I'll obviously show you anything I have been working on outside of the streams. So yeah, cheers everyone for tuning in. I'll speak